All right, so we are starting our 4th episode of the Blood Boilers. Welcome, gentlemen.
You know what boils my blood? You doing technical shit.
Oh my God, dude, it does. We've spent the last 40 minutes trying to figure out how to get on
My
air
blood is
here.
boiled. It's like a pregame workout.
Like he's got something else to do.
Yeah.
Who's Alonzo? Who's Alonzo? Is that the scholarship name or the name you use when you apply for fake Latin scholarships? Or what?
Apply for grants and whatnot.
Yeah. See, look, he's real. He's got a podcast.
No, Alonzo is in Don Quixote. It's the real name of the character Don Quixote. So, since we're out there changing minds and changing hearts with our chivalrous opinions about the world, I figured that'd be an appropriate name for. I don't know. Google Plus made me pick a name, and they wouldn't accept Blood Boilers. They said it wasn't a real name. So,
now I gotta name my kid that.
Yeah. So I had to pick a name. I just picked that. So.
Because that was right on the tip of your tongue.
Well, I was gonna pick Don Quixote, but I figured
that was
Plus would be like, oh, there's too many Don Quixotes. This is still fake. So.
Yeah, you know.
That's like a dating game name.
Yeah.
After watching Newsroom, I started thinking I need to read Don Quixote, but after that synopsis, I think I'm good.
Another bullet dodge.
Like, I already know the theme. No reason to check out the actual text.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading.
For our fans at home, just real quick, for our fans at home, we've got Scott Walraven. Give him a wave out there. All right, we got J Mac in the glasses. G Dub.
Always a pleasure.
And your host tonight is Zachary Honez Jones. All right.
Alonzo
Wally, you were about to say something before I rudely interrupted. I apologize.
Probably was. I don't know what it was. When I figure it out, I'll just yell it randomly.
All right. Jay, do you want to start us off with something that's on your mind? Anything on your mind over there?
You know what boils my blood, guys? Google Hangout recording.
It does. It does.
You know, I was going to put something on Wunderlist today, and it was just too long. But are you guys familiar? And I'm not sure the name. We might have to do some Googling.
Yes, I am.
Jay, you want to fact check for us, maybe? You got your Google handy?
Yeah.
There was a whistleblower for the NSA back in 2001.
Oh, really?
And he was warning about the exact same shit that they're doing now. So he was kind of at that the kind of beginning stages of it, and he was a whistleblower. I don't think he was prosecuted. I don't think they wanted it. I don't think he was ever tortured, waterboarded like they plan to do to Snowden.
Well, you see how benevolent George Bush is compared to this guy?
Yeah, apparently. And then if you actually look at the drone strikes, too, I mean, Bush actually turns out to be kind of to the left of Obama in some cases.
Yeah. G-Dub, I know what you're talking about. The NPR actually interviewed the guy a couple times.
The only one that pops up is Sharon Watkins, but she was the one that brought down Enron in 2001.
Yeah, that's right.
Go to the Wikipedia page under whistleblowers, and I think there's
it will say
a list of all the most a list of all the most prominent whistleblowers. Anyways, but the guy the difference though between him and Eric Snowden is that Eric Snowden released this stuff to the media. This guy didn't actually release anything to the media. He just told the media about the program, and no one believed him because he didn't turn over any evidence. And so he had whistleblower, but he didn't turn over any evidence because he didn't want to be accused of. And he also quit in protest. He quit in protest and wrote a letter explaining why he quit and shared that letter with the media. And you know, they had interviewed him a couple times, and then now he's getting more famous now with the Eric Snowden stuff because he's being interviewed and saying, okay, what's it really like at NSA, blah, blah, blah. But he was the guy who actually designed the algorithms for what they, for how they actually capture all that information.
Yeah, and then people didn't believe him. It's like he designed the fucking algorithms for this shit.
I still don't believe him.
Well, you're right. They still don't believe him. The FBI raided his home and took all his computers and everything. This was after 2 years of being, 2 years after he had resigned. They like kicked in his door and everything because he had done a couple interviews with like Wall Street Journal and New York Times.
Wasn't illegal, was it?
The search?
No, what he did.
No, because he just talked about the program. He didn't actually give them any information.
And yeah, they kicked in his door and raided his house.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Imagine that. Can't happen to you. I'll just call the police. They'll come save me. Oh.
Yeah.
But
he's just a quack. Don't worry about what he has to say.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what ended up happening is the FBI just discredited him like crazy and kept saying this, this guy was a disgruntled employee, and we were worried he was going to turn over information, so we searched his house to see if he had any information. And they're still refusing to give him his computer back, and it's been like 3 or 4 years since they kicked in his door.
Oh, and look, we found a ½ kilo in his top dresser drawer. Can't believe it.
Well, that would be a little hard to believe because the guy was like 75 or something like that. So
it's for his glaucoma.
Yeah.
I'm 75.
Yeah. So, all right. On the Wonder List, let's see. Scott, did you put this up? Mayor Bob Filner from San Diego taking time off for intensive therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has to go to not being an asshole training, right? Is that what he's not to how to not fuck the public? Like what is he reaching for therapy for?
Yeah, well, you know about his case, right? What he's being accused of.
I don't think so. Fill me in.
There's like 4 or 5 women who say in the course of because he used to be a congressman, a federal congressman, and now he's the mayor of San Diego, and he just recently won. The last election cycle back in November is when he won, so he hasn't been in office very long. And a lot of women have started to come forward and claim that he's been sexually harassing them in the workplace. A lot of female lobbyists and a lot of members of his staff and former members of his staff. Now, none of them are claiming that he threatened them with sexual harassment. Like he said, you're not going to get promoted unless you sleep with me or something like that.
So he wasn't going full Bill O'Reilly.
Right. He was just a complete perv and would like slap their butt when they walked by and stuff like that. But never actually, from what I understand, actually had any relationships with them. So.
Well,
just attempted relationships.
What really happened is these women got rejected when they advanced him, and so they're trying to discredit him because they're angry that he wouldn't be with them. That's what I think.
I'm just shocked I'm shocked.
We just lost all our female viewers, so all our one female viewer.
I'm shocked San Francisco elected a straight mayor.
No, it was San Diego.
Look at this guy.
Oh, San Diego.
Welcome to Google Plus Chat. He just got here.
Yeah, so he won with San Diego in the past had been a Republican mayor, and he's a Democrat.
See?
And he was really pushing for.
They're all perverts.
Yeah. He claims he has this mandate now and he has a lot of work to do. And so instead of stepping down, like many Democrats and Republicans are asking him to do, he said, no, I'll just take a 2-week hiatus and I'll go through sensitivity training and counseling about this stuff.
He's probably actually going to go on a mandate.
Yeah. The thing is, he's 75 years, or he's 70 years old.
Going on a mandate does kind of sound like something that'd be a mayor of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And he's back, too.
Being that he's 70 years old, there's been some talk is, can someone so late in the game change the way they view things and the way they respect or don't respect women, or can they change these probably long held beliefs about sex and gender and things like that, and what's acceptable at the workplace?
When I see Ray Lewis, I see a man who found God, and I believe people can change.
All I see is a football player.
I tried. Yeah.
Jay, you did join his cult though, if I remember right.
I did for a while. I was on board. I'd follow that man at anything.
Especially big black women.
People probably aren't going to change, but there's a such thing as doing it for as long as you can until you stop getting away with it.
I'm still rolling with that one.
He's been playing grab ass for like 50 years.
Well, yeah, you'd think after the Clarence Thomas thing, he'd be like, "Oh, we're not supposed to do that." Well, I should probably
maybe
stop
he did have hair on his Coca-Cola. Did anybody ever think of that?
Next thing you know, he's gonna be hosting Price is Right.
Well, you need to be thinking actually in his terms. He's 70, so for most of his adult life, women didn't really work a lot, and now they're everywhere. I mean, we can't expect him to control himself. It's not his fault.
Yeah, did that work out well for what was that 90-year-old congressman from South Carolina?
Oh, Bill Clinton. No, he was president.
No, you mean Jesse Helms?
Was that the guy who was like 100 years old?
I don't remember that.
Oh, you mean
Strom Thurmond.
Hey, you know what I'm recalling right now? I don't recall any Democrats asking the president to step down with Monica. He should just say, Bill Clinton is my idol, and I would do what Bill does in this situation.
They did. He was trying to. You're right. No.
What does grab really mean?
What do you mean by is?
Yeah. Is it physical? I don't know what is really.
Are you going to the mall later?
Isn't there some bylaw somewhere that says men can lie about infidelity, though? Like, that should be okay?
No, Gary, that's called natural law.
That should be okay in front of a grand jury, right?
Yeah. That's called pleading the fifth, right?
Yeah.
That's one.
No, that's not legal anymore.
One.
So pleading the fifth's not legal.
Pleaded with the fifth one.
I think it's like
with a fifth.
It's like fifth and a half or something.
Oh, we must be down south.
Yeah.
Scott, I think you also put up here, states seek to nullify Obama's efforts.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I know a lot of them are passing, some of them are some things on Obamacare. I don't really know exactly those because I don't care, but Wyoming, for example, said any federal official who tries to, assert federal gun laws in Wyoming will be arrested. Like, they passed that, for example. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty sweet. But that was in reaction to all the Obama
Sandy
stuff.
Sandy Hook reaction to the gun law reaction to Sandy Hook tragedy.
And I mean, that's not the only state. There's at least 26 other ones that did something that radical.
Right, but none of those actually have. Federal law still takes precedence over state law, and none of those. Do you really see a bunch of state troopers trying to arrest a bunch of FBI or DEA
No, but
agents?
it's a huge repudiation of federal, power. If only,
it's
legally
a symbolic gesture,
through.
is
right,
all it is. Because
it's kind of drastic, though.
Yeah, and a lot of states, it's happened in a lot of states, but it's not the entire state that has done it. It's what's happened is single counties have made resolutions and things like this, and Wyoming, I think, is the only state to actually ratify that as a state. However, I don't think the governor signed that. I think Wyoming's governor failed to sign it, but
I'm gonna have to email that slut.
What?
Anyways.
It's kind of like in Flint when they legalized marijuana. Like, the federal government really doesn't give a fuck. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still coming to take your weed. I'm sorry.
Well,
Sorry
I mean,
But I mean,
all,
that should
all
actually.
all these states that have these marijuana. I mean, it's very similar to that. All these states that have these marijuana laws, the federal government is ignoring those laws. I mean, just because a doctor has written your prescription and you're allowed to grow 17 plants on your property or whatever it is, the federal government doesn't see it that way, and that's not how they view this. The only difference between 17 and or 19 plants or whatever it is for the federal government is misdemeanor versus felony, you know, and intent to distribute, you know, and so then that becomes a bigger issue.
That's the funny thing. If that were me, I'd be like, I'm not giving this stuff to anybody. I'm not selling this. Stacking this in a bookcase.
Yeah. With your money for.
Well, no, that's worthless. I got something worth something.
Hey, I know I didn't put this in the Wonder List. I'm sure you guys saw this if you turned on news. The stem cell cheeseburger. You see this?
No. Oh, yes, I have.
Now,
it doesn't taste the same?
Yeah, well, they actually, I don't know, they had like the food critic and journalist taste it, and they said it's comparable. I mean, it doesn't have any fat in it, but it's basically just regular cow animal cells, so it tastes like a burger without fat, you know?
Yeah,
but
a really lean burger. I'm
just wondering, you think this technology will do nothing, will be like the new Happy Meal, or like solve world hunger? You know, because it'll be cheap and easy eventually. So
I'm all for that.
Yeah,
I think what's going to happen is we're going to start having these warehouses all across the world where we're growing just giant meatballs, and we're just slicing off the pieces of these meatballs and selling them at supermarkets. You know, like when you go to a Euro sandwich place and they have that big slab of meat hanging in the hook, they just cut off pieces of it, but you have no clue what kind of meat that really is. You know, it's gonna. I don't know. Is that sci-fi? Is that, you know, futuristic? Are they doing? Is the science doing it just because they can do it and they don't know what the?
Or is it commercially viable?
You know? Yeah.
Well, okay. The thing is, though, they call it like the $300,000 hamburger, right? But it costs $300,000 to develop.
Right.
Now, you think about McDonald's. You think they would care if they had to spend $500,000 to fucking develop some fucking machine where they just put out free beef, like at each store? I mean, it has so many implications, but then obviously you have all the like organic lovers who would like freak out over it and say people shouldn't eat it. But I mean, all that shit, like whether it's corn syrup or fucking refined sugar, eventually that shit gets to our table because nobody gives a fuck what's good for you anyway. You know.
You know what's that's a good point you bring up is the organic people would be opposed to it, but you know who would be in favor of it is PETA.
Animal rights, absolutely.
Animal rights activists. So you'd have two very liberal activist groups opposing each other on this issue.
Which is a small minority and split in half.
Yeah.
Well, then how do you change that shirt? PETA, people eating tasty animals. What do you change that to? You know? There's got to be something else with an A.
Tasty meat blobs.
A couple of those.
Can you label it as vegetarian if it was made with a stem cell and package it to Morningstar?
Yeah.
Like, here's your veggie burger.
Here's your giant Boca burger.
Called Dark Moon.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't think we'll probably ever see like individual McDonald's doing it at their restaurant because I can see some contamination concerns, but I can see it done at like warehouses and then like deep freezed and then sold as patties to McDonald's, you know, already frozen or whatever.
You say like because of sanitation as opposed to the wonderful sanitation from our huge warehouse farms. You can't eat spinach without getting fucking E. coli anymore.
Right. Yeah, they just had that recall of all those salad bags.
Yeah, that was reassuring.
E. coli. Wally, I wanted to get back to what you were talking about, though, about Obama's legislations being states are trying to overturn this. And have you guys heard of Common Core? Gary, you probably have, right? The Common Core.
Yeah, of course.
These are a set of standards that are kind of replacing the No Child Left Behind. Am I correct in that, Gary?
Yeah, the No Child Left Behind Act is obviously like kind of phased out and it's worthless, so they're letting it die. Um, Common Core is, I mean, really to me, like looking at the Common Core standards versus the normal Georgia performance standards that they had last year,
Right.
really not that big of a fucking difference. In fact, for me as a language arts teacher, a high school language arts teacher, it would actually the standards. If I was teaching by the standards, they would give me more freedom under Common Core than really under the old standards. But on the other hand, it's sometimes excluding some of the fiction text that you would normally read and wanting people to read more nonfiction texts, even things as mundane maybe as like repair manuals or basic nonfiction articles, kind of pushing the points more to that over some of the things that you traditionally read.
Well, the reason the government is pushing for this, their rationale for pushing for this, is that they had passed, as part of the No Child Left Behind, they had said, okay, if your school falls below a certain threshold, we're going to cut off funding for your schools. The problem is every state had a different threshold. Every state decided their own threshold and then would pretty much manipulate it and say, oh, look at this, only one school fell below the threshold here. When in reality, if you compare like schools in Massachusetts to schools in Alabama, they weren't the same thing, and I'm not just talking, I'm sure there's some places in Massachusetts where the schools are horrible, and in some places in Georgia where the schools are excellent. I'm not trying to stereotype those two states, but
even though they rank among the bottom in education in any federal list, well, Georgia at least, but
yeah. And so what the government said, what the federal government said, okay, here is the threshold, here's the line. Schools that fall below this line are ones that will potential for losing funding as long as you stay above it. And so they called that line the Common Core. So that line is what all schools have to teach to at least. That's the minimum that they have to teach to.
Well, and actually the thing with Common Core, I know I've also looked at some of the K through 5 math Common Core standards, and they really do raise the bar on the type of math kids are doing in grade school, which, I mean, it doesn't really help anybody. I mean, if these kids weren't learning it before, changing the standards isn't going to really help. But, I mean, again, the thing is, when it comes down to it, you can put any sort of standard, you can pass any law you want, but whatever's happening in the classroom is what's going to happen. If you teach at a psych ward like I do, you're obviously, say you're a math teacher at a psych ward, you're probably not covering a whole lot of trigonometry no matter what the standard on the board says.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And obviously there's pitfalls in law for that and everything. But, and as far as No Child Left Behind, I hear this talk about schools losing money, but we were named one of the worst schools in the country. Kids don't pass tests and they don't graduate. They're not meant to graduate. We're a mental hospital. But we got labeled that. And we ended up getting more money because we were labeled a priority school. So we got Title I tutors, we got Title I money for computers, and we ended up with more money because we were considered a priority school that needed to be fixed.
Gentlemen, I'd like to take a pause for a minute and show you this wonderful stuffed pepper that my wife just brought up.
Wow.
Jay and I are getting dinner served to us while we're on the...
Was that clone from a beef leg?
Yes, it is our stuffed pepper blob. Yeah, and
by Pfizer.
So how this relates to states...
Maybe his real name is Alonzo Kim.
How some states are repealing or trying to repeal Obama legislation is that in Tea Party states, in the states where the Tea Party has been successful, a lot of the politicians are pushing back against these Common Core and refusing to adopt them. The problem is if they don't adopt them, the federal government cuts a huge amount of funding from their education allotment. And it's a big risk. And so what these states are saying is we don't want federal dollars to pay for our schools. Therefore, that way we have the freedom of teaching whatever we want, such as creationism and things like that.
Well, and that's what it boils down to. I mean, Common Core isn't stifling. All right, what it is good, for good or ill, it's making every state that wants to participate have the same standards. All right. So if you move from Kentucky to Tennessee to Michigan, you're going to be kind of covering supposedly the same thing in each state at that time. Okay. So the standard, it's universal standards for what you're supposed to be teaching. But it hasn't really dramatically changed what you're supposed to teach, and nobody really knows what the standardized tests are going to look like, or if there are going to be any, or how that's really going to work either, because we haven't seen them yet. But
you guys don't have much time because the school starts pretty soon, and these standardized tests aren't created yet for a lot of these places. You know, are they going to be ready, or are they just going to have to defer till next academic year and put another class of students a year behind, you know?
Well, sometimes they roll in.
Well, that won't happen because they said no child left behind.
Yeah. Sometimes they roll in slow. Like last year, I had mine for language arts, but perhaps a business teacher was still under the original Georgia performance standards. So sometimes it rolls in slow, subject by subject. You know, core subjects first, or sometimes they do a complete overhaul, but overall, on like the federal level, I don't even know if they plan on doing standardized tests or how they plan on measuring it. I think they just want them to adopt it in name only. Okay, yeah, we agree, we're going to do it. And the states that are scared to teach evolution or want to talk about slaves or whatever else are opposed to it.
On a side note, I don't think Jay's moved in 5 minutes.
You thought
I actually thought it was a screenshot for a second.
I'm totally intrigued by this.
What's funny, he's got food right in front of him and he's like ignoring it.
I'm not ignoring it. I just don't want to hear the clanking.
He's on RedTube.
Yeah, red too.
Yeah, but anyway, when you talk about the school standards, I wish I could throw something under the bus or set some on fire, but you just don't really. If you read the standards, they're pretty fucking basic and pretty close to what I was teaching before anyway.
Which is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Which was sit down and don't kill yourself for 50 minutes. But
I would appreciate if nobody wrote their name and shit on the wall today.
all right, I'm gonna count my safety scissors so nobody steal them so you can cut your wrist later. That's more like.
Do you have to use those like rubbery pencils instead of the regular ones?
We can't have pencils that have the metal on the end, so we buy pencils without the metal, and then we buy the erasers separate, shit like that. Yeah, no staples, no paper clips.
Just sharp pieces of wood.
I have to count my pencils before and after class.
You should have to use those rubbery pencils, you know.
Oh, dude, there's weapons all over, man. There's glass windows and shit. Like, so it's. I mean, yeah, you have to limit the risk, but you're not gonna eliminate them. You know.
It's not
Is
two
the
stories
risk-
high, is it?
Is the risk between patient to patient, or is it a patient hurting themselves? What's the
Both.
concern? Both.
I mean,
Yes.
my main concern is patient to staff, but
Let's be honest here.
yeah, I've had girls try to cut their wrists in class with scissors, and I had to like tear the scissors and restrain her and call staff and all that. I've had kids trying to kill each other. No. I've had kids try and bite and spit at me and shit like that too. So it's all of the above.
So did you learn takedown moves and all that stuff? Do you have to go through that kind of training?
Yeah, absolutely. I've gone through that training. I probably
So you're like a
overall-
ninja, right?
No, but I can safely take down somebody without hurting them. That doesn't really help in a bar fight.
You don't want to safely take them down in a bar fight.
No, the idea in a bar fight is to fucking really hurt somebody. So no, I don't learn anything applicable. Although one job did teach us a little pressure point above the elbow that maybe come in handy, but yeah, I probably had.
Should try it on your girlfriend. Tell us how it works.
I've hip tossed a few people at bars just for the fuck of it using it. You kind of get you get them just above the elbow and you kind of swing them down to the ground. It's all one pretty good fluid motion. It works. It's pretty cool to watch.
Unless you're watching it from the ground.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I probably had like 200 hours of that training because I have to have 40 hours when I start a job, which, as you guys know, I change jobs once a year, and then 16 hours review every year. So
So they bring in a dummy for you, or?
no, you do it on each other.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, this job takes it easy on some of the teachers. We don't really do the hardcore shit, but when I first started, I was hired as a staff. So I went through the whole thing all over again for like the 5th time.
So you just take the hottest chick there and just slam her.
Like
that.
The object is not to hurt him. I think I mentioned that. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I'm sure she'd be calling you the next day.
Because this job, they don't even give you mats, man. They expect you to take them down easy, so you don't get a fucking mat when you take somebody down.
Yeah, in real life you wouldn't, right? I mean, it'd be in the classroom with linoleum floors. Or
Hey, babe, go clean off the desk.
I did work at one job where part of the process was somebody to run and get the mat. I really did. It was fucking hilarious. I saw my boss running with the mat above her head one time across the campus. I don't know. Not my job. I'm teaching.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, you have up here, should Saudi Arabia fear North Dakota? One man says yes. What is that about?
One of the Saudi princes gave a speech, I think in his country or somewhere, about how his country needs to be concerned about all the U.S. oil production in North Dakota and Wyoming and soon South Dakota and possibly the entire planet. So, yeah, but that was pretty, like, he's just saying our country's really, we're oil, that's it. But once these guys don't need it from us, what are we going to do?
Yeah,
he's saying, he's like, you guys, I mean, each year we buy at least 500 million less or something like that. I mean, a large number less, and it gets lower and lower because we have our own finally. We're finally producing our own.
Isn't it true, though, that my understanding of the way the oil game works, and granted, I don't work for Enron or anything, but my understanding is we buy cheap oil from overseas, we use that oil, and we buy it fairly cheap, but then we produce our own oil and sell it to countries where we can charge more. Is that not how it works?
Yeah, we really only use about 50% of the oil that we create. Because we keep it in reserves, and that's one of the things that has been controversial about our oil program, is that we're barreling it and we're just saving it in case we ever get attacked or in case the Middle East decides to stop selling to us. And we're only using about 50% of the oil that the oil or natural gas that I take that back, not about the natural gas, but about the actual oil we're producing. So those tar sands and things like that. That stuff, we're not seeing most of that come to our marketplace. But that's because the Middle East is selling oil for super, super cheap. And even at $100 a barrel, if you look at inflation rates and everything, it's even cheaper now for oil than it was 50 years ago for oil. Which is why oil companies are still very prevalent and why we haven't switched to an alternative fuel, because oil is really cheap comparatively to other things. Now, Saudi Arabia's big concern, not only do they sell us oil, but as they become more industrialized, they need oil too for their own use. Problem is, if they're selling all their oil, they don't have any for themselves. So they have to start using their own oil, which means they can sell less oil.
That's when we bomb them to the Stone Age.
Well, they're stupid because what does Saudi Arabia have more of besides oil than anybody else in the world?
Sand.
Well, yeah, but
that's not true, though.
They have sunshine. And they could easily just turn their entire desert into solar fields. And they wouldn't even need, we wouldn't even need to buy. They could easily convert their energy industry from oil to solar, and we would buy that instead of oil if it was cheaper than oil. So they have an opportunity. They don't, just like America, they don't have the willpower to switch to an alternative energy, just like we don't.
Well, and you got to think, if they do it on a mass scale, All it takes is how many dozen bombs, how far above the atmosphere to shatter their entire solar panel industry. Like if they got them laid them out over the desert, that's not very safe for your energy needs. It's really.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's there's ways you can do it, and you know what? If they converted to alternative energy, and they were able to do it successfully, you know how many of the other desert countries would do similar things? In the United States, we have a desert here in the United States. We could do it there. Other countries would start mimicking what they're doing, and we wouldn't have that animosity, but what would happen immediately is the wealth would change dramatically in Saudi Arabia. Because the Chinese right now are the ones who are making most of the voltaic cells for solar panels. They would easily make a gold mine selling these solar panels to the entire world.
Well, the entire world can also build them too pretty quickly.
Yeah, we could figure out how to build them. Yeah.
Well, as long as they don't get a loan from their buddy, they might stay in business.
The problem with us producing a lot of these electronics, though, is the United States doesn't have a whole lot of rare earth elements, which Chinese has, or rare earth minerals. The things that are required to build flat screens and iPods and all that, we just don't really have a whole lot of it.
Yeah, but we can murdering that thing.
Sorry.
It's just murdering.
I can't wait to listen to this.
I'll be flipping out, man. Just like when Jay brings his chips in or whatever.
Right. I was gonna go. I'll probably gonna
Hey, Jay,
convert this for sure.
When's the last time? When's the last time you had Mountain Dew?
Lent of 1996.
Wow.
Or probably 98. 98, I'm sorry.
Is that literally?
Yeah, I haven't had a drop.
That's impressive.
I only will go back if I see it in a glass bottle.
The miracle
and
of
it's
Jesus.
Throwback.
Lent. The miracle of the Lenten season.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's for, right?
Yep, absolutely. Better yourself each and every time.
Like, there's a thing of it. You should shut your camera off, dude. This is ridiculous. Rice and hamburger and.
Jay, you must have that high def camera on.
It's on mute. I had it on mute, so you couldn't hear me chewing.
Oh no, I couldn't hear you. I just seen you with a knife and fork stabbing
it looks like you're cutting a Flintstone steak.
It's like I think there's a helpless animal in there.
The professionalism knows no bounds.
Right. Wally.
So, college field hockey, women's.
Yeah, let's talk about something real.
Okay.
What about it?
It's just good.
Oh. Wally, it is your turn this week to give Jay his 30 seconds of whatever we call it.
Mr. McInerney, what do you think of the Alex Rodriguez situation?
Well, I find this one interesting because, as the great Alan Garcia would say, they're not cheating to lose. It's like everybody hates the guy, and rightfully so, but I mean, he's cheating to win, you know what I mean? But I don't know. There's always going to be people cheating, I don't think a lifetime ban is really, you're going to try to erase them from ever existing. I don't really see that being the answer. But I don't know. He did what he had to do, and like any man, he is going to lie right to the end, isn't he? To Bill Clinton, oh, those were steroids? Like, he's going to lie right to the end. So.
Those are Flintstones.
Yeah,
Marv Albert style.
Right. I did not bite that hooker. Is that what you're talking about?
I did not dress like a woman.
I mean, after you get caught once, though, you kind of know you might be facing a lifetime ban. They talked about it before. Don't you just stop at that point, or you're a little extra careful or something?
Well, the thing is, none of these people have ever tested positive because the cheaters are always ahead of the test. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always going to be some drug you make in shampoo when they're testing your hair. You know what I mean? Like, they made the fake penis, so you passed the pee test. And then you made shampoo.
I've heard of such things, yeah.
Yeah. So there's always going to be that. It's going to be one step ahead. And it takes so long to do anything. Like, you got to talk to the union and say we're going to do this test, and the union's got to say, well, that ain't right. And by then you've been doping for 4 more years, you know?
I hate unions, man. I hate how they protect the workers. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't Upton St. Clair. Okay, this isn't the jungle here, guys. Let's be honest. You know?
Right.
Good reference, man.
Yeah, but what could be in your stuffed pepper there? You probably don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to know about that sausage factory.
Meat blob.
What happened to that squirrel that was dead in the front yard?
Yeah, we just were talking this morning. We didn't see as many marmots in the blood as The other thing with the roid issue is, what's happening is, why has he been hurt? Like, why are the people who used to be tested for roids now like hurt? It just kills their bodies. You know what I mean?
I mean, you know, you guys. I know you guys are baseball fans. You have a different opinion, but to me, man, baseball needs anything it can get to make it watchable. Whether it's fucking scandal or drugs or more home runs.
Well, that's what they always said when after the strike, 2 years after the strike year, and nobody's watching baseball. What happened? 2 like completely mammoth people could crush the home run record. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and that got people watching. I remember you know, they would like TV shows would pop into before like, you know, everybody could get on the World Wide Web. They'd pop in on a TV show and be like, McGuire hit 58 or something. You know, like that captivated everybody. Baseball didn't care about roids then, you know.
But see, I mean, it's meaningless now. You know, Barry Bonds, that. It's like you just screwed the pooch. What could have been an epic moment in baseball is now just the home run record used to be king. Now it's nothing.
To me, it kind of shit on the history. So, being we already shit on the history, I think it's time to implement more violence and breasts and, you know, just go for it, man. You know, put spikes that come up out of the ground around the bases or something. You know?
Mutant Baseball, Genesis, 1998.
If Matt Stafford took steroids, I wouldn't care. You know.
So do you guys think?
I'd shoot him in his ass for him.
The legal system needs to get involved? Do we need to pass laws?
I know Congress doesn't. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world to me is when Congress decides they're going to have a hearing on fucking steroid use in baseball.
Right. Like, aren't you guys busy?
Yeah.
No, we're not actually. We're on corporate holiday.
We're not going to try. We're not going to appeal Obamacare till Wednesday, so we're good. We can squeeze you in.
Yeah, they've appealed. The House has tried to repeal Obamacare 40 times as of today. Each time they put it up for a vote, each time Congress puts anything up for a vote, for a Congress-wide vote, it costs $1.45 million.
Is that the electric bill for the yay-nay buzzer, or what?
Well, it's to get all the congressmen there. It's to pay for their time. It's to pay for the staff that's involved, the writing, the parliamentary procedures, people who are civil servants, the civil servants who actually go through and look at each bill and then rank them and add their the Office of Congressional Budget, who figures out what this will cost the taxpayers, and they've got to read this stuff. And sometimes these bills are 1,000 pages long because congressmen are adding earmarks and riders into these.
Yeah, little things like exempting the oil and gas industry from the Clean Water Act, you know.
Right. But should we get involved in? And I mean, in order to protect the public and the consumer of baseball and you know the fans, should we regulate? Should we regulate this the way we do with the Olympics and the way we ban drug use and whatnot for the Olympics? Should we get involved with the International Doping Agency and stuff like that?
Well, my question is, I mean, is human growth hormones dangerous to humans? For one.
Sylvester Stallone doesn't seem to think so.
No, he says in a couple years you'll be able to get that over the counter.
Yeah. I don't know if we trust Sylvester Stallone, but that's another question that needs to be asked. Like, why? I mean, Flintstone vitamins are legal. Those might be performance enhancing. If I don't know, maybe a little vitamin E helps your eyes so you can hit the ball better.
And they'll do LASIK eye surgery is performance enhancing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, where's the line drawn?
I think they should stay the hell out of it and
stomach again.
Worry about other things.
I mean, steroids are bad because they give you brain cancer, right? Was the whole Lyle Alzado thing?
Yeah. What about smoking? You know, our president smokes. Let's outlaw that.
Red Bull.
He actually quit.
If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
Yeah.
What an idiot. Just retarded.
Oh, I've heard worse out of a president.
Yeah, so have I. Yes, we can.
Hey, that was catchy, man. It got him elected twice.
Yeah. Yep, there the idiot vote did. One or the other.
No, that's the idiot vote gets everybody elected.
Well played, sir.
There aren't enough fucking well-informed people to sway it one way or the other.
You know what's funny is I vote at a church.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
How's that work?
You know, it's funny, when I go to vote, there's no Democrats on the ballot.
I walk in and there's a giant there's a giant crucifix that's got like bleeding parts and stuff. It's crazy.
Bleeding Ronald Reagan on a crucifix.
Yeah.
Dude, when Jimmy and I helped Jimmy move last week, no, 2 weeks ago, and driving through Kansas and Nebraska and Wyoming, dude, and even parts of Colorado, billboards probably every, I don't know, 100 feet or so that were like, you know, don't abort your baby. They're real people and shit like that. And Jesus loves you, and just kind of weird to see all these billboards about that stuff.
You know what, though? I'd rather see those than, you know, Wendy's hamburger, buy your tires here every 300 feet for 600 feet wide. Like, honestly, I mean...
Yeah, every time I see a Jesus billboard, I can make some snide comment about it.
Right, what do you do? I'm not supposed to buy anything.
Actually, I do the same shit when I pass a McDonald's on them. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it is kind of
Drive slower, the Raptors ahead.
Yeah. You know, I mean...
Raptors.
Sometimes I like to call
Case of Raptors, just Carl Beal, man.
So sometimes I like to call upon my 17 years of Catholic education and look at the fact that Jesus asked people to pray indoors. He looked down on people that prayed in the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
I distinctly remember that shit.
Well, that's because he was standing, Gary. Jeez.
Well, it wasn't actually indoors. What it was is he wanted them to pray privately and not out in public.
Not on Channel 19 every Sunday for 4 hours.
Right.
What if you pray with your...
Yeah, or at some Marine's funeral. But,
yeah, right.
you know, I mean, I like how certain groups conveniently leave things out of the Bible. You know, like Jesus never addressed like homosexuality, and homosexuality is addressed in Leviticus, where they the same book that talks about, you know, stoning women who are unfaithful or
wearing two types of fabric and stuff like that. You know, you're not allowed to wear wool and cotton at the same time.
Or how women need to be separated when they're going through their cycle from the men.
Jesus Christ! When can we get a bumper sticker for that passage?
Right.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh my God! Where's the preacher in the pulpit failing every
I
Sunday?
did read something today that it was like in I'm gonna kill the word, but dramedy or like that time frame 0 to like something BC around.
I think dramedy is a subject on Netflix.
Oh, okay. All Adam Sandler movies.
Ask Jonathan. He'll know. Yeah.
No, but anyway, that is.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
The like if you rape a virgin, you have to marry her, and then you gotta owe her dad like 50 stones or something.
Or the brother has to marry the girl. That's the other thing.
Oh, really?
A family member can marry the rape victim, and that makes it okay in the eyes of God.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's actually that has actually happened in the South. You know, with, I don't know, there was a story I read about maybe 20, 30 years old where the rape victim married the raper's brother because that's what the Bible tells you to do, or the priest tells you to do, or pastor. So yeah, that's not like some weird thing that like is just in the book. It's actually something that some people in certain sects of the religion actually believe and follow through with.
Well, you know, a big chunk of the Old Testament.
It was bullshit.
Well, well, it's used by both the Jewish faith, Judaism, and Islam. You know, so Islam, the Quran itself, isn't just based on the words of Muhammad. It's also based on the Old Testament as well.
Well,
you know how many prophecies I've seen come true in Iraq from like the burning bush. Look at all that. That was a prophecy right there.
Well, Muhammad received the word of God from the angel Abraham while he was literally flying over Israel. So that's why many of the tales are the same. They believe in the same lineage of prophets. Mm-hmm. And actually, Islam believes that Jesus is one of those prophets, along with Moses and Abraham. They just don't believe he's the son of God.
Right, and they don't believe he was crucified either. They believe he just died a natural death or something like that. But
chicken bone in the soup.
Splitting hairs, but anyway.
The point I was going to make, though, is in Islam, we see this problem quite often in the Middle East is honor killings, where they believe a girl has defamed their family somehow, and so they kill them. And we're starting to see that brought over to the States, and Canada's had a few problems with it. Europe has had a few problems with it. And it sort of sparked the fear of Sharia law.
Honestly,
I know Oklahoma passed an amendment last election cycle that would ban Sharia law in their state.
So officially now in Oklahoma, it's illegal to start your wife on fire if she isn't faithful. So everybody can take a deep breath, sigh of breath of relief.
Yeah.
Does that mean? But does that mean I'm not having the? I don't have the freedom of religion.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, do I still get my 70 virgins if I blow myself up in a federal building?
Well, so what they were claiming though is
definitely a federal one.
What they're claiming. So the way part of the fear was in Europe. A lot of European countries were allowing Islamic communities to have their own local courts, and these local courts were following Sharia law rather than constitutional law. But the rationale for these European countries to allow this was that, well, it's really just an arbitrator, and both sides are agreeing to go to this arbitrator. The problem is, and in all reality, these arbitrators always rule in favor of the men. They never rule in favor of the women, and women are forced to participate in this arbitration, this Sharia law arbitration, if you will. And so Oklahoma saw that and said, nope, we're not going to allow that in this state. So
that's absurd.
So in Oklahoma, you can't have Sharia law arbitration.
That sounds like an excellent judicial system.
Oh,
what are you afraid of?
I might need a source to believe that legislators in Oklahoma actually looked that deeply into the law.
Yeah, they were probably told by some redneck, and they're like, "Oh, we better pass that."
Gary, they're not all Indians.
Yeah, it was the back on their white power pamphlet. What's going on in France?
Crazy kids.
Yep.
So I have up here on my list of
stuffed
rice
pepper
and pieces of pepper.
Yeah, this is actually really good.
Look how good I look, clean shaven. What's wrong with you guys? Jeez.
Not mentioning that. It's your hat. It's
you guys look terrible.
So.
Yeah,
I once looked like you guys.
Scotty, you look 10 years younger. Oh, it might be the hat. But I'm not sure.
Or I can only see your eyes and teeth. That might be it.
You guys call me black?
Oh, wow.
That's arrogant.
How many of your students are going to listen to this, Zach? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I'll tell them to start in episode 6 or whatever. You know?
Maybe you guys...
Once we get all the kinks worked out.
I'm sure they won't make it through the first 15 minutes anyway.
Oh, here's why I said that.
Extra credit is not worth this bullshit right here.
There's that TV show, the reality show. What is it? Big Brother. You guys ever see that?
Mm-hmm.
Carrie's been watching that, and I'll catch some of them. And one of the smoking hot girl on there from Texas, in like the 3rd episode, she's like, "Of course I couldn't see that girl. It was dark. All I could see were her eyes and her teeth or something like that." And like, I mean, like, and another one said something like that right on, national TV. That's why it was like a huge thing for like a week. And she got fired from her job and all this stuff.
Was she from Alabama or Central Florida?
Texas.
Oh, Texas. Yeah, there too.
Well, that's why I said that, because like she said that in like the personal room of the Big Brother house towards the world.
Okay.
I'm like, oh,
Lord. With 100 cameras on her. That's the thing about ignorant ass people, though. They don't even know they're fucking ignorant.
Yeah.
You know, that's just
It's
how they
basically
are.
the definition of ignorance, actually.
Like
Hey,
actually,
Jay, tell them what the definition of racism is. We talked about that this week.
That's where you favor one NASCAR driver over another, isn't it?
Isn't that just locking your doors?
So
I did get yelled at work because I called a black guy boy, though.
Hey.
but you didn't do it in the racist sense. You did it in the.
Actually, I did it in a southern accent, so I guess I made it.
Oh, jeez,
Oh,
dude.
Lord.
So Jay's gonna be.
I told you not to
unemployed
buy that expensive car.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
We pay
Appreciate
for it
you
with
sharing
food stamps.
that.
That's why we don't get HBO and Showtime anymore. You cut the cable budget.
Jay Mack, if you want me to go to the Civil War surplus store,
Well, that's
get you one
'cause
of
he
those
got a
boys in the hood shirts. Just let me know.
Yeah.
I was just in Gettysburg recently. I did check out the Nathan Bedford Forrest's autobiography or whatever.
I bet you there's.
Statue?
They
No,
probably
he wasn't there.
They probably sell Klan T-shirts like Obama shirts get sold before the election in Miami, man. Probably all over the place.
Doesn't say hope on it.
Yeah.
No, it does. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Just hoping for some change in Miami, man. Whatever you can spare.
Oh, this is the highbrow humor that I'm sure Zach hoped for when he started this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna rethink about sharing this with my students in general.
Back to being Alonzo.
Yeah.
Let's all just tell them they have to have a.
So what I wanted to bring up was, did you guys watch that video I posted up on Wunderlist?
I actually did the TED speech.
Yeah, you guys, well, you know what TED is, right?
Like the TED offensive?
Teddy bear?
No, it's the TED offensive.
Exactly.
That's the TED offensive, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Isn't that what you just said?
TED, yeah.
TED, T-E-D.
Like the teddy bear.
Well,
Yes,
we'll
like
take that as a no. Okay. We'll take
Okay.
that as a no.
To speed this up a bit. It's like this mini conference that's held quite often, and it's people who have these very innovative ideas about technology, about entertainment, about design, engineering. It actually was technology, engineering, and design is what TED stands for, but it's expanded onto other things like art and philosophy and politics and things like this.
Break it down. Basically, if you've ever sat in a college class and you actually heard a 90-minute lecture that fascinated you, that's like what TED is. It's like the best people in the world doing these
Right.
Oh,
talks.
I know what that is. Yeah.
So there's a guy named Lawrence Lessig, and he's a billionaire. And I'm not exactly sure what he does. I didn't research who he
Nothing
is.
now.
Yeah, you're right. Out there now,
Probably
'cause he's
swims in a
billionaire.
stack of money.
Yeah, right. Literally.
So he is thoroughly disgusted with the United Citizens ruling that allow money to be that declare corporations people and allow money to be used as free speech. And he said, well, that's fine, and we're probably never going, not in our lifetime, overturn that decision. But what we can do, and what is perfectly legal, is we can actually limit that. And, just like we have the right to free speech, we have limits. Like you can't scream fire in a crowded theater, and you can't libel or slander people without having repercussions for that. So what he suggests is, let's limit the money that they can, that people can invest in politicians. What they can donate to politicians. And if we put a cap at, say, $200 or $2,000 for both businesses and individuals, treat them the same, treat nonprofits the same, it prevents big millionaires and billionaires funding all these organizations. And he actually gave a breakdown of all the donations given to politicians and to political action groups and committees and things like this, there was only 165 people who actually donated, or excuse me, millions of people donated, but 165 people represented 70% of all the donations because they were pretty much buying votes from these politicians. And he said it was prevalent in both the Republicans and the Democrats, so it wasn't just one party over the other. They both were receiving these huge amounts of money, but essentially they were receiving them from 170 people, and then therefore all those laws that these politicians write are very generous to these 170 people.
It's Jesus.
And he was able to.
Amen.
He was able to.
What's
Nice,
wrong
Jay.
with this guy?
He was able to demonstrate this through, some really good graphics and whatnot. And what he recommended is that we limit what we can donate to about $2,000 max.
He needs one with a burning bush. Your donations must be small. This is Jesus.
Oh my God! I'm sorry, Zach. I really actually wanted to talk about this because I watched that entire TED conference and it was fascinating. But so he wanted to get down and really separate the money for it, and it was actually kind of inspirational. You think about it because he was talking about like a lot of people say look at the greed and say this would be impossible, but there's a lot of things that throughout the history and course of this country we thought would be impossible. Such as civil rights reform, the end of segregation, the end of slavery, and, we managed to do it. Maybe we can manage to do this too, It
would be a huge upward battle. It would have to be a movement of the people that could overcome the profiteers and the corporations in the country. And it sort of gives, Wally and I have talked
yes, we can.
quite a bit about having a third party and the value of a third party. Unfortunately, with the type of money that these two parties are getting, they write the rules for the elections, and third parties can never get in.
I just saw an article on the front page of Traverse City Record that talked about how the Tea Party isn't going to stand behind the Republican nominees this next go around. They're just
the Tea Party won't have any winners then.
right, exactly.
I mean, by doing that, they've essentially become an Occupy movement. Where the Occupy movement had no leaders and had no.
Kind of like our military. I gotta figure that stuff out.
Well, it seems like the problem with a lot of the movements, like you talk about Occupy, I don't know, it's like the cops tend to beat them and disperse them, or I don't know, maybe there's even some, some extra planning going in. I don't know if people go undercover at those things and purposely try and fuck them up, but I don't know. Protests just don't really work out that well in the U.S. for some reason.
No, they don't, and it's our apathy and it's our, complacency that we're fine with what we have, and why would we change it? It's good, it's almost because our middle class is too big, and that sounds really bad, but our middle class is too big and they're comfortable, and not enough of them have slipped down back into the working class or the poor, and so they're not afraid of losing what they have, But it'll come around as more and more wealth disappears.
This is too much.
So, for those of you joining in,
oh look, I can look bad too.
Not on YouTube, but through the recordings, Wally and Jay and G-Dub are changing
I'm
their
glad you're explaining
backgrounds.
this. Oh look, I got facial hair now.
As opposed to Zach, whose giant head is floating through Venice right now.
Yes.
Like we're all a bunch of ridiculous.
These guys just ruined my serious show.
Right.
I thought that was Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, nobody's gonna ever make it through 50 minutes of this fucking show.
Oh, I
Hey, it's the big hat. It's funny 'cause it's a big hat.
It's funny because it's a big hat. How do you change back to the?
You can't remove effects at the bottom. Or you can-
Gino puts on a pirate hat. That ruins it. He eats an entire stuffed pepper right before the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely
I didn't
fine.
say it ruined it. I was just saying. I was trying to explain to the viewers what was going on.
There's the randomize button.
For those who.
Just say
I'm having
randomize.
technical difficulty.
That's way cooler than talking about politics.
We should do this.
So that's been about 1 hour. It's 9:46. I think we started at 8:41.
Oh, we should do that when we're having Jay talk about his 30-minute or 30 seconds.
Or when Zach's trying to figure out the audiovisual.
Yeah.
Hey, is Gary there?
Oh, sorry if I didn't know to add Alonzo Carrillo.
Did you say Father Guido Sarducci?
Yeah, something like that. Anyways, fellas, I'm going to bed in about 15 minutes. I think what we need to work on for the show is maybe having an intro and an exit.
Yeah.
Alan can put that in all after. What we need to do is keep it either shorter or we all need to get some Ritalin. I think is what's got to happen.
Well, do you guys want to try to keep it to like a 30-minute instead of an hour?
I'm good with an hour. I'm good with an hour.
Because I'll get about a half hour of good material.
Or
I'd say if we talk for an hour, we get a good 20-minute show in there somewhere.
Yeah, right.
They jump around a lot. I can't believe how much they jump around.
Yeah. It's like an hour-long Vine video.
You got the Ernest Hemingway pirate. I mean, you're gonna get different places.
Right. I like the randomize button though.
Yeah, I think it works great.
Alright, I'll take my chance at it.
What in God's name?
Yep, randomize is awesome. It's funny because I'm a dog with a monologue.
Yeah, right.
I just graduated dog college.
Oh.
It's funny because I'm a dog with a hat. Dog with a hat.
Alright, now we're just slap silly. So.
We should be a commercial for this Google app. Of course, it's free, so they probably don't need one.
Yeah, right.
I want the tiara.
There you go. Wonder how I find that again. Not that I want to.
All right, gents. I think that about wraps it up for tonight.
Yep. All right. I think it does.
Alrighty.
Peace out, fellas.
So, maybe you guys could just do me a favor: is email me all your email addresses and your cell phone numbers so I can text you all.
You want a list of fears and my class schedule?
And your mother's maiden name so I can.
Or just her maidenhood.
Her maidenhood.
You got it.
No, just so I can log you in properly, because that way we're not wasting 40 minutes. I can goof around with this first and then send you an invite when it's actually correct instead of the fucked up one I sent. So.
Yeah, I'll check out that.
Cool.
I'll check out that software I got too. Maybe I can. I don't know. Add this.
Your condition.
My condition is the condition I'm in. All right. Anyways, I'll see y'all.
All right, gents. Have a good night. Bye. It was